900 hours, February 19, 1945. Iwo Jima's beaches of volcanic ash. Against the black sand, Lieutenant Robert Dunlap of the 27th Marines flattened himself, while Japanese machine gun rounds ripped the air overhead. A concrete pillbox 30 yards away flared with muzzle blasts. His rifle was jammed, fouled by the detestable volcanic grit coating everything. Nearby, 3 Marines were already killed when a Japanese soldier erupted from a hidden spider hole just 10 feet distant. Screaming with bayonet fixed, Dunlap had a single second to pull the weighty pistol from his hip. The Colt M1911-45 automatic cracked one time. That Japanese soldier's attack stopped immediately, his form collapsing backward like he'd been hit by an unseen sledgehammer. Within the brutal closeness of Pacific Island combat, that lone shot signified something the Imperial Japanese Army had disastrously failed to grasp. U.S. firepower was not merely numerical, it was about knockdown capability. A question both tactical and psychological pervaded American combat reports from Guadalcanal to Okinawa. Why did Japanese troops repeatedly misjudge the deadliness of U.S. small arms, especially the Colt .45 pistol, leading to that miscalculation costing them greatly in the savage close-range fighting typical of the Pacific War? The explanation uncovers more than a tale of weapons design. It shows a clash of 2 entirely different martial philosophies on bravery, tech, and the reality of winning point-blank firefights. In 1941, Japanese military doctrine bore the hubris of an empire that subdued Manchuria, humbled China, and stunned the globe at Pearl Harbor. Their infantry instructions stressed the Japanese soldiers' spiritual advantage, the flawlessness of bayonet attacks, and the belief that U.S. troops were weak, unruly, and would collapse beneath a resolute assault. This was not just propaganda, it was a foundational belief written into training guides and tactical manuals. The Japanese soldier trained using the Nambu Type 14 pistol, an 8mm semi-automatic weapon that U.S. intelligence officers subsequently characterized as sufficient for scaring Chinese peasants but insufficient for halting a determined foe. Using a comparatively weak 822mm Nambu round that produced about 162 foot-pounds of energy, the Nambu reflected Japanese preferences, lightweight, simple manufacturing, and the presumption that pistols were primarily formal weapons for officers leading with spirit and swords, not firepower. After Japanese forces seized U.S. positions in the Philippines during 1942 and inspected the heavy Colt M1911 pistols, intelligence files recorded their reactions as varying from bemusement to scornful disdain. The firearm appeared ridiculously bulky, overly complex, and symptomatic of America's dependence on material advantage over martial spirit. They were, in fact, lethally mistaken. The Colt .45 M1911 was not created for range practice or ceremony. It was engineered to halt advancing foes with total reliability, and its design history showed American practicality at its most resolute. This pistol resulted from harsh lessons in the Philippine-American War, where U.S. soldiers using .38 caliber revolvers found that resolute Moro combatants, frequently drugged or zealous, could take numerous body hits yet keep charging. The Army's solution was not to doubt troop bravery or enhance training. It was to make a larger firearm. The M1911 by John Moses Browning used the .45 ACP round, producing around 400 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, over twice that of the Japanese Nambu. Yet the sheer figures alone did not convey the full picture. The .45 ACP's heavy, comparatively slow projectile imparted immense hydrostatic shock to a human target. Military medical reviews from Pacific fighting showed that center mass impacts from the .45 made wound cavities averaging 2.5 inches wide and reliably caused instant incapacitation. Japan constructed a pistol for officers to bear. America constructed a pistol to terminate close-quarters fighting immediately. By 1944, manufacturers like Colt, Remington Rand, and Ithaca had made over 2.7 million M1911 pistols. This weapon was 39 ounces loaded, contained 7 rounds, plus one chambered, and was the standard firearm for officers, NCOs, vehicle personnel, and special infantry units. In Guadalcanal's dense jungles, Peleliu's cave systems, and Iwo Jima's bunker chains, that handgun would forge its reputation in the war's most personal and savage fighting. The lesson was first learned at Guadalcanal. Marine Corps debriefs from Henderson Field detailed nighttime infiltration efforts by Japanese troops who, having observed U.S. defenses, thought they could leverage supposed American fear of the dark and close-range encounters. During the night of October 25, 1942, Japanese units began synchronized assaults on marine perimeters. The outcome destroyed Japanese notions of American determination. Corporal Mitchell Page, leading a machine gun squad, ended up in close combat when his position was taken. His handgun was responsible for 3 verified kills at distances under 15 feet. His account was precise. Each man I hit with the Favre 45 dropped instantly and stayed down. Follow-up shots were unnecessary. Identical stories filled combat logs from Tarawa, Saipan, and the Philippines. Japanese troops who endured as prisoners conveyed astonishment at the instant knockdown force of U.S. pistol shots. Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, leading Japanese units on Iwo Jima, had analyzed U.S. arms thoroughly. His tactical directives to his men clearly cautioned against underrating American firepower, pushing for positional defense over banzai attacks. He grasped what his precursors failed to. U.S. arms were built for effectiveness, not ritual. The Empire's spiritual advantage was meaningless against hydrostatic shock and severe tissue damage. Yet, organizational hubris faded slowly. Even into 1945, Japanese instruction manuals kept stressing close quarters fighting with bayonets and swords, armaments that demanded the assailant live long enough to contact the foe. Facing Marines and soldiers using M1911 pistols within the tight spaces of bunkers and caves, such survival was impossible. Okinawa combat analysis noted that U.S. personnel equipped just with pistols got higher kill ratios in close combat than Japanese soldiers equipped with rifles and bayonets. By the war's conclusion, the statistical proof was overpowering and devastating to Japanese tactical beliefs. Medical reviews of battlefield casualties showed that soldiers hit by Nambu pistols had survival rates over 60% if given medical aid within 2 hours. Soldiers hit center mass by the M1911 had survival rates under 15% in the same circumstances. The disparity was not aim or bravery. It was physics. U.S. ordnance trials showed the PAS 45 ACP round could pierce 4 inches of pine or 12 inches of dense earth, sufficient to hit targets behind typical field barriers. The heavy round kept enough energy post-penetration to inflict lethal injuries. In contrast, Japanese pistol rounds frequently failed to pass through even minimal cover. In the harsh setting of island fighting, where each cave mouth and bunker slit turned into a possible kill zone, this distinction was life or death. The American military manufactured over 3 billion rounds of .45 ACP ammunition throughout the war. Handguns that appeared superfluous in peacetime were shown to be ideal for a conflict where engagement ranges frequently reduced to conversational distance. Japanese troops adjusted too sluggishly, caught by doctrinal inflexibility and manufacturing constraints that stopped them from creating equivalent arms, despite battlefield accounts screaming for them. The close-range fighting of the Pacific War rendered a clear verdict on the clash between Japanese warrior philosophy and U.S. engineering pragmatism. Japanese soldiers taught to prioritize spiritual strength above firepower found that bravery could not defeat hydrostatic shock. Officers bearing pistols as rank insignia were outmatched by American NCOs bearing arms built for instant deadliness. The Colt M1911 stayed in U.S. military use until 1985, a 74-year service life that affirmed its basic effectiveness. Contemporary forensic study of Pacific War combat merely confirms what field reports recorded amid the close-quarters savagery of jungle and cave fighting. The instant knockdown capability of the .45 ACP round preserved innumerable American lives by neutralizing dangers before they reached bayonet distance. The Japanese military's deadly error was not a lack of technical knowledge. It was philosophical blindness. They constructed arms that mirrored their values: discipline, austerity, and spiritual advantage. Americans constructed arms reflecting their values: overpowering effectiveness and applying overpowering force. Within Iwo Jima's volcanic caves and Guadalcanal's jungles, that distinction was quantified by survival rates and casualty data, telling a tale no measure of warrior spirit could defeat. The final reason Japanese soldiers grew to dread American pistols was savagely simple. The Colt .45 was engineered to halt a human target with a single round, and it reliably performed exactly as it was engineered to.